Hey guys, I'm Corbin, and this is a stem breakdown of my new song, Roses. I'm just going to take this one step at a time, walking through all the different stuff that's going on in the recording and processing and arrangement and whatever. I'm going to get into the nerdy stuff of it. So we're going to start off with the instruments. The first piece here is obviously the acoustic guitar. I'm running 3 tracks for this, which is it's a little weird, but I'm going to explain why I did that. So the first one is just a line in of my acoustic straight into my interface, and that sounds like this. It sounds pretty good on its own. There's not a lot of processing going on. There was some weird stuff going on in the mid-range here, or like upper mid-range, I guess. So I took that down, and then I added a fresh air to just make it feel a little brighter. And then to add a little bit of extra brightness, I duplicated that track and made it a lot thinner, and then stereo separated it so that it was really wide, just to add a little bit more top end. That on its own sounds like this. It's doing very, very little, but together they sound pretty good. And then to really fill it out, the final step was just miking my guitar at the same time that I recorded the line stuff, and just let a lot more of that low end kind of sit in that. So that sounds like this. You can tell there's a lot of like room noise and stuff going on in there, but I wanted that within the mix. I wanted this to feel like a very bedroom pop type song. The next thing is these just hard left, hard right, finger picking the exact same chords that I was playing here. I have them pretty low in the mix as well, so I'm gonna turn those up, but these sound like this. You can tell those are a lot grittier. I really didn't do a whole lot of processing on these. I kind of just let them be how they were. There's some compression, and then I guess I ran 2 compressors. I didn't even know I did that. And then fresh air and EQ, and I think this one, yeah, this one's a little bit thinner just so that they're a little different. And then the only other thing going on in this part is this little bell right here that is a Ableton stock bell that I just tweaked a tiny bit, so I would still say it's stock, but it sounded pretty cool, and this was the melody I came up with for that. The song really felt like it wanted another instrument going on there, and since this is kind of low end heavy in the first place, I just let this bell be very top end. Really filled out what could have been a pretty boring space in the song. You know, it's just a little intro, no vocals, nothing. And then there's also this little lead guitar thing that my friend played. I have just some reverb and then a doubler effect with a EQ on it, so that sounds like this. He just lined that in on my acoustic, and it sounded really cool, so I kept it in there. The only other thing going on here is the bass for the verse and the chorus. There's a good bit of processing going on here. I'm gonna walk through that in a second. This bass I actually recorded in Logic because of the vamps, because they sound fantastic. Now I could have recreated that sound in here, but I figured I might as well just out the gate have that. Processing wise, I'm just doing a compressor on it, and then I've EQ'd a lot of the mid and high range out. I'm just sort of leaving it as a sub bass almost. So realistically, I could have just programmed this, but it was fun to play. And then max bass, and then these are the 2 side chained compressors that are going to the 2 different kicks that go on through the song. We have the sub kick here, and then we have the acoustic kick that's going on here. The next thing I'm going to walk you guys through is this SPD section. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. We have this riser right here that I then reversed to make like a splash. So that I made it super thin. You can see I took a ton of the low end out, and that just sounds like this. Super, super subtle. It's very quiet in the mix. It just needed something else to build up. And then we have this sub kick here that I really just took a little bit of the highs out of. And then there's this snap that's really just a bunch of reverb, and I made it wider with a spreader, and then I EQ'd it so that it's very low indie. And then with all that, it sounds like this. And then the next thing here is these jingle bells that I don't think I'm doing anything to besides widening. Yeah, and I'm not even widening them that much. And then those are layered with this hi-hat to just add a little bit more of a punch to it. So with the hi-hat, it sounds like this. And then without the hi-hat, it sounds like this. So you can tell it just adds like a little bit more of a hit, makes it sound a little more realistic. And then layered in with those two hits is this open hat that I'm actually not doing anything to. So all that together sounds like this. It's just a little something on the offbeat. And then there's this rim shot here that's just really delayed out. So it goes like this. You can tell I kept the feedback up a lot. It pretty much keeps going until the next hit, which is pretty cool. And then layered in with that, there's this clap that just has some reverb and delay on it, and a snap that just has an EQ and some reverb on it as well. So all those together sound like this. So you can tell that clap, I did a different synchronization on the delay, so it's hitting at different points, which is kind of cool. It's really emphasizing that offbeat thing that I was going for with the open hat being there. And then the only other thing going on here is these thin hats that I don't remember which one actually, but one of them is pitched down an octave. They are pretty EQ'd. I guess I ran 3 EQs. I don't know why I did that, but then there's some reverb and a spreader on them just to make them wide. So those sound like this. All right, and then with the SPD and all the guitars and stuff, it sounds like this. There's a lot going on, but you can't pick out every little piece in all these layers and stuff. Like, I don't think anybody would really notice that this is 3 sounds layered into one. So the next thing we're going to check out is all the drums, because there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to walk through every single piece, but I'm going to walk through the basics. So there's this little build here that goes into the actual groove. That all together sounds like this. I'm actually not doing any processing on the snare besides like literally just changing, a decibel or two between each of the hits, making them feel a lot more realistic since we didn't actually record these live. The only actual processing I'm doing is that I have a reverb send set up here, and so that's just being sent to that and getting a little bit of verb out of it. And then for some reason on this kick, I have it sent to the reverb and I have a reverb actually on it. I don't know why I did that, but the only other thing here is this kick preset that Ableton makes, that I just threw it on there to try it, and I liked the way that it sounded, so I kept it. And then with the closed hats, the only thing I have going on here is this vinyl distortion, because I wanted them to be pretty crunchy. A little bit of EQ and a little bit of reverb. So I'll show you with and without the distortion, because that's the main thing that's driving this tone here. And then this is without it. I really liked the way that it sounded on its own, but when I put that distortion on there, I immediately felt like it added so much. And then the only other thing going on here is this open hat, so that just goes like this. I kept this part of the drums kind of basic, like anybody could play this, but I really just wanted it to feel like a groove, and I think that it's really serving its purpose in this part of the song. All right, I'm going to talk about this build up here that's in the second chorus. So it starts off with this hat, and then it goes into literally just single hits, and it's progressively getting louder and louder and louder, and I just manually gained all of these up and down. The layers going on are the same snare here, and then there's this cannon snare that sounds like this. And then there's this crash on the initial hit. And then the only other thing going on in the actual build is these 3 tom hits, so those sound like this. Nothing super crazy. So all of that together with the build and then the ride cymbal sounds like this. This just really felt like the best way sonically to drive the song forward and make sure that it didn't get too repetitive. The other thing that I did to really drive this chorus forward was to add all these string pieces. These are all Logic VSTs actually, except for this little pad right here that I got from Ableton. Some really interesting chord voicings going on in there, and it's kind of buried in the background, but I do like the way that it feels texturally. And this is the only time in the song that there are strings, except for this little violin right here that is actually doubling this bell piece. So those are doing the exact same thing. Besides that, all the strings are kept for right here, and those together sound like this. Alright, and then I won't spend too much time in the ear candy section. There's some cool little crackles going on. I recorded some room click for the intro. There's this weird little crunchy thing that I found on Splice that I thought sounded really cool. There's a paper rip at some point in the song. And then in terms of risers, I'm using this little wind riser that I found. And then I paired that with this scream riser that I've used in several of my songs, actually. Those risers are both very buried in the background. I wanted the main riser to be this little symbol right here. So I kept the other ones pretty far below that in the mix. And then at one point in the song, there's actually this fireplace that I EQ'd a lot of the high end out of. And that together with these risers sound like this. I just needed a little extra boom on this initial hit after the build. And then at certain points in the song, we get this little sparkle effect. It just added a nice little high end to certain points. I thought it was pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about the choke. So in the acoustic here, I, for some weird reason, couldn't choke the guitar while we were recording it. So this piece right here, raw, actually sounds like this. I don't know what it was. I couldn't get it. So I went in with a pick and redid it just the choke so that they sound like this. So all of that instrumentation together for that build sounds like this. I really like the way instrumentally this song turned out. There was a lot of stuff going on initially that I took out and kind of decluttered, but I really just had a good time, especially with recording all of this stuff. This was done at like 2 a.m. I just made all these strings, and it was pretty cool. But I think it ended up coming together in a way that makes a lot more sense than what I initially had in mind. All right, so let's talk about the vocals. So processing wise, I'm doing a good bit actually. So obviously I've got a little bit of auto-tune going on. I've got my Waves de-esser that is hitting pretty hard actually. It's in that 6,000 range obviously. And then I'm doing some light compression work. I've got a few EQs going on here that are really just cleaning up stuff. I'm running a decent bit of fresh air on that vocal to kind of give back some of that presence I lost from all these cuts. And then I'm running this gate just to keep any of the extra noise out, obviously. And then I have this sidechain compressor here that's really just doing a tad. It's only at -10. Then I've got just a little bit of saturation. The drive's only at 4 and it's at 34%. And then I've got this reverb here that actually comes in and out quite a bit throughout the song. You can see like right here especially. You know that I'm wrong. There's a swell right there at the end of that. And I think I did that again. Yeah, I did that again right here too. Wrong. On the same line. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then on the second verse here, the reverb actually drops out completely. So it goes from this. Believe you, and I still remember that night in December when those 3 pretty words let me into your life. So I just wanted that verse to be a lot tighter and then let it open back up again over here. And then I also have this delay that I've automated to only come in on this part right here. So I'll cover you in roses, tell you you're pretty, but will that be alright? You can barely hear it, but it's there. It was just a little something to sort of fill out this space since I was only doing single strums. And then harmony-wise, I'm not doing anything super crazy. You can tell there's not a lot of layers. I think in this part, I'm honestly just staying on the tonic. So I'll cover you in roses, tell you you're pretty, but will that be alright? Yeah, I'm really not doing a whole lot there. I'm doing the same thing throughout there. And then there's this part over here. I'll never leave you, and I still remember. just to build it up a little bit. This right here is probably my favorite harmony. It sounds really great. I just had to keep it here.
Now you know the reason that I choke.
This part right here is probably where the most harmony work is going on. It's all of these.
Don't keep your heart open. I'm leaving this city, but I'll stay for the night.
And then mix-wise, the harmonies are pretty much identical to the lead vocal. I just made them a little bit thinner. And then obviously I put a spreader on and made them just a little bit wider just to keep them differentiated. And then the last thing is on the mastering chain, I have a brick wall compressor. I have this EQ that's just doing a roll off on either end. I have this limiter that's just making it a little bit of louder since I had so much headroom initially. And then I'm running this L2 Ultra Maximizer that's also not doing a whole lot, but I just like the way this one sounds. It gives a nice warmth to the whole mix. But yeah, that's it. Now you guys know how I made this song. Thank you for watching.